And boom. Hey, everybody. It's me, Chris. Happy Friday. We made it. I am, it has been a week. I'm tired a little bit, but I'm ready. I am ready to go. If you are new to this live stream, welcome. I do one every week, every Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. And it's one of the things I do on YouTube every week, including make 4 to 8 videos a week. So if you're not checking that out, you should be. Just subscribe to my channel. It's so easy. Hit subscribe. There it is. I just did it. I also write a Substack newsletter. Just search my name or go to chriscillizza.substack.com, CILLIZZA.substack.com. You'll find it. 65% of the content's free, 35% it's $6 a month or $60 a year. I am an independent news creator, which means I don't work for anybody except me. I spent more than a decade at the Washington Post, 5 years at CNN, and this is my second year out on my own. I mostly make content on Substack and YouTube, and it's been awesome. It's been fun, but I need your support. So ways that you can support me. Subscribe here, subscribe at Substack. Both of those things you can do for free. You also can, at Substack, pay to become a subscriber to get all my content. And here on YouTube, you can do a super chat if you want, which is that little $ in a rectangle. If you do that, if you do donate, I will make sure I read your question. I'll bump your question up to the top of the list. Doesn't mean I won't get to all of your questions, but I will give priority to that. Again, this is what I do for a living. So I need your support. And if you can make a financial donation, I very much appreciate it. All right. Let's get started. Sherry Zimmerman. Chris, my two sons work their way through school calling balls and strikes. They love the game and they love the responsibility. It was tough to watch as their mama, but it built character. Yes, Sherry, you're just setting me up to say that I call balls and strikes no matter what the uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I get it. And that's what I'm trying to do here. But yeah, it can be tough to watch sometimes, but I'm trying to do it. I'm committed to doing it. So thank you. Michael Gates. Hey, Chris. Hey, Michael. Any thoughts on Joe Biden's Chicago speech? Seems it went largely unnoticed. Well, if it went largely unnoticed, Michael, I think that Democrats are thrilled about that. So I think it was Monday, seems a while ago, but I think it was Monday that Biden gave that speech. He it was about Social Security and how Donald Trump is a threat to Social Security. He did not say Donald Trump in the speech, but you kind of got the idea. There is not a lot of desire among the Democratic activist community, the Democratic donor community, and the Democratic elected official community for Joe Biden. There just isn't. He's an 82-year-old guy who many people in the party blame for having lost them the presidency. I don't think that's entirely fair. I think Kamala Harris had some role in it, but Biden and his unwillingness to get out of the race, his willingness to run for a second term, his debate performance, the fact that his White House covered up at some level, and I think we'll find out more about this, but covered up at some level his condition. Look, all of those things were really, really bad if you're a Democrat. So I don't think Democrats wanted him to make news. I don't think they want him out there. I think if you could have polled Democrats and said, would you rather have Joe Biden speak or not speak, they would say not speak publicly. But this is where we are. Let's see. Sam's still a Cillizza fan. With WrestleMania on Sunday, can you talk about your wrestling fandom? When did you start watching? Favorite wrestler, favorite match? What would your entrance music be? Entrance music is easy. Final Countdown, like Joe Bluth on his Magic Act. Favorite match? I don't really know, Sam. Favorite wrestler, Bret the Hitman Hart. And when did I start watching? The 80s. So I'm 49. So in 1986, I was 10. I was probably watching WWE then. And from 86 to about 2000, I watched it a ton. I watch it less now, although I'm contemplating getting WrestleMania. So it's like I'm in and then I'm out and then I'm back in. Paul Olson. Paul, thank you for the donation. Paul says, how soon will we formally and officially betray Ukraine? Wow, Paul, that's a little bit of a loaded question. So over the last 36 hours, you first saw Marco Rubio and then the Secretary of State and then Donald Trump say basically like, if Russia's not going to make a deal, we're not going to spend a lot more time on it, which is kind of weird in that Trump said that on day one of his presidency, he would end the war between Ukraine and Russia. No, of course I knew that was a rhetorical flourish and that was not actually going to happen. But it's kind of weird to be like, this is too complicated and we don't have enough control over these two countries, so we're just going to walk away from it. Because like that, of course, they're sovereign nations. You can't just tell them what to do. That's always been the case. So I don't know if we're on the verge of betraying Ukraine. I mean, I would say the rhetoric in the last 36 hours is actually more anti-Russia than it is anti-Ukraine. I mean, that said, Donald Trump has said that Ukraine started the war. Obviously not true. He had a major confrontation with Vladimir Zelensky in the Oval Office about sort of why Zelensky was acting tough when he didn't have any cards to play, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I don't know the answer to that. Look, I've always said the idea that Donald Trump is a Russian plant or he wants to do good things for Russia because they have dirt on him. I've never bought that because my whole thing with Trump is all he cares about is looking like he's winning. He wants a deal between Ukraine and Russia, a peace settlement, a ceasefire, because he thinks it'll win him the Nobel Peace Prize. That's it. Like, yeah, I mean, I think, yes, tangentially, he doesn't want people dying. I mean, I'm not saying he's pro any of that stuff, but he mostly is interested in this because he thinks it will help him win the Nobel Peace Prize. And Obama has won a Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Like, it's not that complicated. So I don't think he's like, yes, let's get Ukraine. I think he just wants to make a deal. I think that's always been what motivates him. Patrick Murray, Supreme Court will review Trump's birthright case next month. As of today, what do you think will be the outcome? I mean, Patrick, I'm not a constitutional expert, nor am I a lawyer. I talked to my friend Steve Vladeck, who is both of those things. He's at Georgetown Law School now, on my Substack last week. And his point was it's going to be really hard on birthright citizenship because it's right there in the Constitution. That to overturn that would be to ignore the Constitution. And at that point, we're in a different place. If the Supreme Court ignores the Constitution to go along with Donald Trump, we're in a different place. So I guess I lean toward them upholding birthright citizenship. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, that is not my expertise. Brett Green. Hey, Chris, any thoughts on the 2030 census in blue states like New York, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, California, Oregon, Illinois, Michigan, all losing between 1 and 4 electoral votes, and red states like Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona getting those votes? Yeah, it's a huge problem. A huge problem. For Democrats, like the growth in the country is in places that are Republican places. Like the Northeast has been losing seats for a while, as has the Rust Belt. Rust Belt's a little bit more of a swing area, and Northeast is a more Democratic area. But now, like, California is starting to lose seats. Obviously, that's a huge Democratic area. So with Texas and Florida certainly moving more Republican, Texas staying about the same Republican, yeah, it's a problem. The 2032 electoral map will be more favorable to Republicans than the 2024 or the 2028 electoral map, unless we see drastic changes in vote patterns in those states. I'm going to write about that, Brett, and maybe make a video about it too, because I think it's really important. Dan W., any updates on the JFK documents? As I figured, it wasn't groundbreaking. I haven't heard a word since its release. Have you? There's not that much in there. I always caution to people, like, you think that because there's some unreleased documents, or there were some unreleased documents, that there's like a bunch of big secrets in there. The truth is, I think most of that stuff has already been released. I think that, so I think it was a little bit of a nothing burger. I think it was a little bit of a Geraldo going to Al Capone's vault for you oldsters out there like me who get that reference. For people who are just joining, first of all, thank you. Second of all, you need to like this. Just thumbs it up. Just give it the old thumbs up. Because that helps me get my content out to more people. The algorithm likes when people like things. So like this. Tell your friends, hey, Chris Cillizza is chatting live right now. Come on over. Send them the link. Get them involved. Let's go. And also, most importantly, offer up your comments. If you want to donate to me, the way to do it is via Super Chat, which is that little $sign in the rectangle. Do that, and I will put your question up at the top, and I will be incredibly thankful for your support of independent journalism. The other way that you can do it is go over to my Substack, chriscillizza.substack.com, and become a paid subscriber today. $6 a month, $60 for the year. All right, let's keep going. Justin Zay, do you think the U.S. will ever have more than two parties, legitimately, that is? Justin, that's a really good question. Ever is a long time, so I don't want to say no. In my mind, the way that these third-party efforts have been going about it is all wrong. So they start top-down always, right? We're going to field a presidential slate. For me, what you should do if you want to start a third party is incorporate it and begin at the state and local level. So state house races, state senate races, even city council races. Start trying to bring candidates into your third party and then getting them placed in these local elections. I think that will then sort of trickle upward. And I think it's a lot easier to get someone elected as a third party candidate in, let's call it a city council race, than it is in a presidential race. Presidential races are incredibly polarized. And so people kind of line up behind their flags. Those other races are a lot less so. They're also a lot cheaper. So it's a cheaper date to kind of get in there and potentially get someone elected. So I think you start bottom up rather than top down. And I think that's a possibility. I just think big donors, the kind of people who want to fund these efforts, they want to fund a presidential campaign effort. They don't want to fund something that's like, a lesser office. But I think that's where you have to start. Jack Moon, what do you think of AOC as a speaker? I've seen her in person, and I know you think she has good odds in 2028, but like DeSantis, I think she will be hindered by poor public speaking. To be clear, I mean public speaker, not Speaker of the House. Yes. So, Jack, I guess I disagree. I thought she was a little rough around the edges when she first got elected because she had never done it before, and nobody thought she was going to win, right? But I would say the transformation from then until now is significant, and that's what makes me think she has a legit chance to be a player in the presidential race. Go watch, and I say this all the time to people, but go just type in, it's on YouTube. Go watch her speech at the 2024 Democratic Convention. It was really good. Other than Michelle and Barack Obama, it might have been the best speech, I thought. And I also thought it spoke to her ability to not moderate her message. She's clearly quite liberal still, but to speak in ways that people who aren't as liberal as her might be interested in hearing more from her. So I just think she has a lot of natural ability. And I think her trajectory in terms of learning what it is to kind of how to do public speaking, how to, manage that kind of stuff, I think she's been pretty good. In the esteemed words of the late Tone Loc, let's do it. Sean McKenzie. And then Sam notes Tone Loc is still very much alive. Yeah. Funky Cold Medina. Man, those are the days. BK739. Was the deportation of Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia a winning issue or an issue Democrats should be fighting? Okay, this is not going to make me popular because it didn't make me popular on my Substack when I wrote this. Look, let me start from here. I believe that the goal of political parties is to win elections, because by winning elections, you accrue power, and by accruing power, you are able to implement your agenda. I think the best way for the Democratic Party, which I will remind people does not have control of the White House, the House, or the Senate, the best way to seize control of one of those three chambers, and it's the House in 2026, is to focus on Donald Trump's economic handling of the economy / tariffs. Over and over again, I'll note, let me point you to G. Elliott Morris, a guy I talked to this week. He used to work for 538 for ABC. They got rid of it stupidly. He now has his own Substack called Strength in Numbers. He just did a thing that noted that Trump's economic approval is lower than at any point ever since he's been in politics. That's crazy, right? Because in 2017, Donald Trump was not as popular overall as he is today. And yet his economic approval ratings were higher than they are today, because people don't like when the stock market goes down, because people don't like when you say you're going to focus on lowering the prices of everyday goods and cutting inflation, and you focus on tariffs, and that's going to raise inflation. So to me, Democrats should be spending 80% of their rhetorical time on that and 20% on everything else. And that 20% can be on Abrego Garcia. I get it. I'm just saying, if you are solving not for being morally right, but for winning elections, they should talk about the economy, not immigration. Like I said, that view has gotten me a lot of hate, but I'm just being honest. Let's see. Christopher Swan. Christopher, thank you for your donation. He says, I'm running for U.S. Senate in Illinois. The Democratic primary even got a Politico mention. Question. As a no-name locally, how do I get on reporters' radar? Well, congratulations on getting in. Dick Durbin is running, but I think most people think he won't ultimately run. I think he raised $43,000 in the first 3 months of 2025, which is not much. How do you get attention as a no-name candidate? Social media, I think, because you can control that, right? YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, try to sort of start building a following there. And then I would say interesting policy proposals, ways to stand out. Like, it's just like me. You have to try to stand out amid the crowd, but you have to stand out authentically. You can't, like, I could stand out by saying, oh, terrible things about Donald Trump or great things about Donald Trump. I don't want to do that because that's not who I am. I'm an independent news creator. I'm a journalist. I'm not that guy. So you have to do it within kind of your lane. But I do think creatively about how to draw attention to you on things you want to talk about. And you got to raise a bunch of money, unless you have a bunch of money. But thank you for your donation. I very, very much appreciate it. Let's see. 4 a.m. Pizza. Hi, Chris. What is your opinion on polyamorous open relationships? I don't know that I have like a set view. I'm monogamous with my wife. She's amazing. Crazy. Dr. Always First. What celebrity do you think could make an impact for the Dems? McConaughey. No, not McConaughey. He's a UT guy, horns down. Celebrity that can make an impact. Mark Cuban would be interesting if he ran. I think he's a bright guy, good story to tell, successful, wealthy. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, giant celebrity, has money. I don't know if he's a Democrat. I think he is. By the way, Stephen A. Smith, I don't buy that. Stephen A. Smith just signed a huge contract. He is not going to risk that by running for president. The reason that he's talking about running for president is because he wants people to pay attention to him, be relevant, be more, raise his Q score, right? But he's not going to run. Felix, thank you for your donation. Very kind of you and much appreciated. And I would say anyone who donates, I can guarantee you it will go to supporting what I do. I used some donations to buy this microphone right here that I'm using. I use some donations to help with my lighting and stuff. So you are supporting a real independent journalist. This is my home office, nothing fancy, right? So thank you for your donation. Felix says, as a Democrat, I think Democrats should take a hard line on immigration, or should they keep dying on this hill? Most Americans are not with the illegal alien aisle of the Democratic Party. Look, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. So the Kilmar Abrego Garcia thing, obviously I follow it closely. Many people on this chat follow it closely. Lots of people on the internet follow it closely. You know who doesn't follow it closely? Swing voters and persuadable voters. They just don't. And because the nature of who they are is that they don't follow the news all that closely. What is their takeaway from this? Abrego Garcia was an illegal immigrant. True. 2011, he came into the country. Trump got rid of him. He might or might not be in a gang. He probably shouldn't have been gotten rid of because he wasn't supposed to be sent to El Salvador. I don't even know if they know that, but broadly, that's what they know. And I think they think like, well, Trump got elected to get rid of illegal immigrants. This guy's an illegal immigrant. Well, get rid of him. That's why I think it is, again, I think a lot of Democrats will say it does not matter. All this political stuff that you're talking about does not matter. This is about what is morally right. It is morally wrong to grab this guy, not give him due process, and send him to El Salvador, and then throw up your hands and say nothing we can do about it. I agree. I think that's morally wrong. I am trying to balance that with the reality of politics as I know it. The reality of politics as I know it is that most people are not going to engage at that level on this issue. They are going to see a guy who came to the U.S. illegally who has now been deported. The end. Which is why I think Democrats should not spend most of their time this week, next week, etc., fighting more on this issue. They should focus on an issue where the public is with them. The public has soured significantly on Donald Trump's handling of the economy. Move in that direction. Yeah. Okay. Paul Smith, what do you think about Chris Himes potentially running for president? Connecticut resident asking. Do you mean Jim Himes or Chris Murphy? I assume you mean Chris Murphy, the senator. I think he will run. He is in the sort of fight Trump on everything, liberal wing of the party, put morality before political consequence. And I think he will run. And I think he should run. He's an interesting guy. I'm trying to book him on my show over at Substack where I talk to Democrats about what went wrong and how they need to fix it. If you've not checked that show out, it's fun. It's called Out of the Wilderness. It'd probably be interesting to you. If you're talking about Jim Himes, the member of Congress from Connecticut, I do not see him running for president. Noel Fredrickson says, hit that like button, smack that like button, do it. Let's see. Dan W. Dan, thank you for your donation. As I always say, it goes right to me, to supporting being an independent news creator. So if you have a little bit of extra scratch that you want to donate, thank you. Thoughts on the fawning over Trump from the right? Renaming Dulles Airport, making his birthday a national holiday, adding him to Mount Rushmore, a third term. Jon Stewart did a piece about this. To me, the blind devotion is a mountain, right? So this goes to, Dan, my question of mountains and molehills. I've thought a lot about this. I do think the best way to understand Donald Trump's appeal and control over the Republican Party is not as a traditional political party leader, but as sort of the leader of a cult of personality. I think that these members of Congress understand that the way to get what they want from Trump is to laud him, is to go over the top, like things where you would normally roll your eyes if somebody said it about you, like obviously they're just trying to kiss your ass. That doesn't bother Trump. So I think that the fawning is not, I think some of them believe it, and some of them think he should have a third term and he should be on Mount Rushmore and they should name a coin after him and he should be on the dollar bill, whatever. But I think for most of them, it's a political calculation. It is, I want things from Donald Trump. The easiest way to get things from him is to kiss up to him overweening, like praise beyond praise, and he'll notice it. And so I think it's a political calculation. I don't know that that makes it better or worse, but I think that's where we're kind of at on that. Good question, though. A really good question. Mariana Colmenares, love your content, but your way to ask to subscribe is so annoying. Why is it annoying? I don't know how else to ask to subscribe. Should I not ask? My experience in this independent space is if you want people to subscribe, if you want people to donate, if you want people to help you, you need to ask for it. But please, I don't want to be annoying. So please tell me if I'm being annoying. Let's see. Jay Tahoe. To be honest, we kind of knew Trump would abandon Ukraine. Remember when Trump said working out was too hard and stopped after a week? His general approach to complex issues. Also, great reporting, Chris. Keep it up. Been subbed to your channel since October. Yeah. So to me, like, Trump is always going to do what's good for Trump. That's just how he operates. He's always going to, whatever he thinks is best for him, he's going to do. It's purely transactional. He wants to make deals because end this war because he thinks that will accrue to his benefit. Like, it will make him a more consequential person in history. It will win him the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, I don't know that he has like really strong and fast, like hard views on like the Ukraine-Russia thing, like who's right, who's wrong. I don't think he looks at the world like that. I think he looks at the world as, how can this be good for me? And how can this be bad for me? And he does things that are good for him. I mean, like, I truly believe that that's how he sees things. Adam Del Judas, Chris, last year you seemed committed to making sure you vote. In today's mailbag, you said you don't plan to vote for anyone in 2028. Why the shift? So, Adam, I would say I didn't say I don't plan to vote for anyone, but the question in my mailbag, which, by the way, I answer a bunch of questions in written form over at my Substack, was if Rahm Emanuel wasn't running, who would you vote for in 2028? And the assumption inherent in there is like, I would vote for Rahm Emanuel if he was running. No. My view, I look at this like a reporter. I've always been a journalist. I look at it as who is good at messaging, who is good at persuading people. Rahm Emanuel is good at those things. You can hate him, but I think he's good at it. That doesn't mean that I support him. That's just not, I'm not in that world. Now, as for voting, I really struggle with it. You are right. I have pledged that I was going to vote. I didn't vote. It's because I'm divided internally. I don't really root for anyone. I know that's weird for people who follow this stuff closely, who are not journalists, but I don't really root for anyone. I look at everything through kind of a more scientific's the wrong word, but maybe it gives you the idea, lens. Like, is this smart politics? Is this dumb politics? It's why I get criticized so much, because people are like, this isn't a game. I'm not saying it's a game. I'm just saying I have looked at it through this lens of what's smart politically, what's dumb politically, what politicians are doing smart things, what politicians are doing dumb things. For so long, it's really hard for me to just turn that off and be like, okay, I like this person, because none of them in my mind are particularly great. Like, I'm not overwhelmed by any of these people. Democrat or Republican. Do I think Donald Trump has a whole lot of warts and has authoritarian tendencies? Yup. Do I think anyone on the Democratic side has that? Not as much, no. But I'm not in love with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And again, I know that is hard for people. Like, I get it. But that's just me. And I'm just, again, all I can do is be authentic. Like, you might not like my authenticity, you might not, but it is like I hate to say my truth, but you know what I mean. So anyway, Sean McKenzie, Junkyard Dog was my favorite wrestler, and the first one I remember having entrance music. Another one, Bites the Dust by Queen. So my favorite when I was really young was Jimmy Superfly Snuka. I've only come to the Hitman later in life. Paul Olson says, hit that thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up, people. And by the way, spread the word that we're doing this. Let's get over 200. We're at 190 and only 69 likes. 70 likes. Okay, so let's keep it moving. Merle Narian, Doge image. I feel once people receive the first check from them, I will not be surprised if the attitude completely changes. So I guess you're assuming there that Doge is going to send out checks that they've saved money from the government. If they do that, yeah. I mean, people like money. People like to get a check that Donald Trump or Elon Musk has signed. Sure. MJ Jewel. Hey, Chris, how are you? Not bad. Thank you for asking. Do you think Ossoff's goose is cooked in the Georgia Senate race? My money's on Brian Kemp for the win. Warnock carried Ossoff and Biden over the finish line in 2020. Can't again. So I think a lot depends on whether Brian Kemp, the former Republican governor of Georgia, runs. And I feel like it's very mixed. I assumed at the start of 2025 he would definitely run. And I feel like when the smart reporters I'm reading, like Greg Bluestein, who works at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, it feels as though it's much more mixed about whether he's going to run or not. If he doesn't run, there will be a big primary on the Republican side, and a credible person will emerge. But I like Ossoff's chances much better if Kemp doesn't run than if Kemp does run. I think Kemp would be tough. The only thing working in Ossoff's favor is I do think 2026 will be a good year broadly for Democrats because I think Trump's going to be in the low 40s in terms of job approval, and that should mean a good year for Democrats. But still, it's a very, very, very tough race. Mark 2867, not Mark 2866. Mark 2867. After your reporting on Lisa Murkowski's fear, the defying of federal courts, weakening of individual rights, do you still think we are not heading towards the demise of democracy? If not, why not? Because I'm really, really cognizant and worried about, we are already in at least our second cycle. It's been 3.5 months, 3 months. We're in our second cycle on a totally separate subject of Donald Trump is forcing we are in a constitutional crisis. The first one was around Doge. This one is around Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia. Are we going to have a constitutional crisis every 2 months or more? And then if we do, does that mean it's a constitutional crisis if we still have the Constitution? I want to be as mindful as possible that, yes, Donald Trump is pushing the guardrails more than any president that we've had in the modern era, and probably any president ever. At the same time, the sky can't be falling every day because it would have fallen already. Like, that's what I struggle with. Yes, there are norms are being busted. He is pushing for more executive power. He is ignoring the legislative and at some level the judicial branch. Yes. Do I think we are headed to, as you say, the demise of democracy? I don't yet. And again, look, that's just me. I have no monopoly on being right. There are a lot of people on the internet who will tell you not only are we headed toward the demise of democracy, we're already there. That's not me. Jordan Hirsch, economics, mainly tariffs, immigration, and Doge cuts are the current talk of the day. But what topics do you think are being overshadowed and need more journalistic light shed on them right now? So I always say what's happening in the agencies. You know, we focus so much on the presidency, but what's happening in the agencies really matters for policymaking, whether that's the EPA or Health and Human Services, particularly with RFK Jr. So I always want more on that. And then I would like to know more about education, just as a general rule. I think that's a place where both parties don't talk enough about it. I mean, I know Trump is working to get rid of the education department, but I'm saying, like, broadly speaking, like, where is education headed? How are we going to keep up with the rest of the world? I just don't hear that, and I wish we heard more. Clarence Peterson, I think that a recession is something Trump won't be able to recover from because it affects people personally, unlike January 6th. Do you agree? Yes. That's why I think the economic piece is the most dangerous piece to him, and therefore the best weapon Democrats have. If the economy slips into recession, Donald Trump will say it's not a recession. All these wonk egghead nerds say it is, but it's not. But I think it will be hard for him to combat that, particularly if people are seeing higher prices on everyday goods and inflation is up, which obviously those things go together. So that's, to me, the real danger for Trump is he was elected. I always say this. So the exit polling, they ask people 4 issues. Which issue was the most important in deciding your vote? 33% of people said the economy. Of that 33%, which is one of the biggest chunks, 81% voted for Trump and 18% voted for Harris. So it really is kind of the economy stupid at some level. And so if you are not engaging on the economy, or you're not doing what you said, or you're doing the opposite of what you said, bring prices down, bring inflation down, I think that's a huge opening for Democrats. Adrian Weber. Adrian, thank you for this, for your donation. Very much appreciated. It goes to supporting what I do. Hey, Chris, late to the party. Maybe you've already answered this. Thoughts on David Brooks's call for a unified, nonpartisan Trump resistance? So I've read snippets of David Brooks' column. I've not read the whole thing. By the way, we're over 200 people on this. Thank you so much. Spread the word. Also, like this if you haven't, give it a thumbs up. I have not read all of David Brooks' column yet. I'm planning to, but I just haven't done it yet today. I get his argument. It won't work. I mean, we're just too polarized at this point, right? It's like if Joe Biden came out and said the sky is blue, Republicans would say, "Oh, old man Biden, what does he know?" So I like the idea. I think it is useful in the public discourse for a David Brooks to exist, but I don't think it's going to change anything. And by the way, I'm not trying to skip people's questions. I am trying to get as many different people in as possible. Sly Fox, even Republicans in town halls have been complaining about immigrants not getting due process and Trump disobeying our court rulings. There are some. I mean, like, just because someone says they're a Republican in a town hall does not mean they're a Republican. And again, look at the approval ratings. Trump's approval rating is down, but it's in the mid 40s because 90% of Republicans still support him. So the idea that Republicans are streaming away from Trump, I'll believe it when I see it. Remember when people said that Liz Cheney coming out and endorsing Kamala Harris and doing events for her was going to be the thing that changed the election? Not really. Donald Trump overwhelmingly won Republican voters. Right. So let's see. John Hostler, are we still providing Ukraine military and intelligence support? I believe we are, but I'm not totally sure. Anyone who wants to chime in can help. Robert, New York. Wait, why could Abrego Garcia not go back to El Salvador? So, Robert, there was a 2019 court ruling. Abrego Garcia said he came to the United States originally because he and his family were being threatened by a rival gang or a gang in El Salvador. In 2019, a judge ruled that he could not be sent back to El Salvador because it risked his personal safety to be sent back. That's why. Oh gosh, I just skipped down a ton. Hold on. I did that on accident. Robert, New York says, Chris, you don't need to balance anything. Stay consistent. You lean left. Robert, I really try not to lean anywhere, but thanks, man. Let's see. Sorry. Curtis Kleinsmith, you interviewed me when I ran for Congress in 2000. I remember that, Curtis, from Arkansas, right? Followed your career ever since. Keep on moving up. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And thank you for your support. And yes, of course, I remember you. David Johnson, nothing annoying about CC. Well, I mean, I could be annoying for sure. Barry Riley, wow. Every YouTuber I watch asks people to like and subscribe unless they are well known. Yeah, like I don't know how to like I guess people get annoyed that I ask, but like you have to ask because there's a lot of people who, if you don't ask, they won't do it, right? Ben Schiffman joined late, so sorry if I already asked, but can you talk about how the average voter sees the Fed and how the threats to Jay Powell affect their view of Trump? The average voter, Ben, has no clue what the Federal Reserve is or does, and they don't know who Jay Powell is. So these threats, I mean, look, I don't think that Trump legally can fire Jerome Powell, but like if he did, I'm not sure the average person would be like, oh my God. They'd be like, what is the Federal Reserve and who is Jerome Powell? I think. Bug Whoppit Vespa. Hi, Chris. Has Trump been referred to the SEC with regard to the stock market tips he gave last week? Keep up the good work. Well, it is not actually clear he gave a stock market tip. I know what you're referring to. He said, good time to buy or something right before he announced the pause on the tariffs. And, if you bought the dip, you would have made a bunch of money. I don't know if that can be directly proven that like it'd be hard to prove he definitely, unless somebody emailed him and was like, hey, can you put on Truth Social that people should buy stock? I'm trying to buy the dip or whatever. It's hard to prove that. He can just say it was coincidence. Was it coincidence? Great question. William West, Chris, I think you should vote on who you feel would be best for the country. You can have a bad person doing the smart thing politically. That doesn't mean you should vote for them. Yeah, I know. I don't, it's very hard for me because I just don't look at the world that way. I know people are like, you immoral monster. It's like, no, I mean, I just don't. In politics, I've been trained for so long. I was never interested in politics before I got into journalism. So it's like, this is the only lens I've ever looked at it through. And sort of I look at it through that. Pocket watch. Cillizza does root for someone. The Fighting Aggies of Texas A&M. Damn right. 8 wins in a row for the Aggies in baseball. They just beat Arkansas last night. Whoop. Maxwell Feiner, do you think AOC is more likely to run for the Senate or presidency? So Maxwell, I made a video on this earlier this week. Check it out if you haven't. I think she should run for president. She's well-known. Polling suggests that people would be for her. She's like in second or third behind Kamala Harris. She is going to be able to raise the money. There's going to be a lane for her, liberal populism, because Bernie Sanders isn't going to run, and I think we've seen that that's a lane. So I think she should run for president, and I think she's more interested in running for president. I mean, I guess we'll find out. By the way, if you haven't thumbs up this, thumbs it up. I'm going to keep going. Let's see. Brad David, since you interviewed Tara Palmieri, I've been following her content. She's very talented. Yeah, she's great. If you guys don't follow Tara on YouTube, you should. She's awesome. She's also on Substack. She writes the Red Letter on Substack. Good, great reporter. She was at ABC, Politico, Puck, and now on her own. Mark 2867, authentic people learn and grow. Time to change your lens. Fair enough. Christy Key 295. I always watch this. So do I. Side King. I've always valued humility in a leader. Any humble politicians around these days? Side King, it's hard because I think you got to think a lot of yourself to say, particularly for president, like me among all of the 350 million people in this country, I am best suited to represent them. It's kind of a big ego statement, right? So there's some false humility. There's not a ton of humility. Like Trump obviously thinks very highly of himself. Barack Obama thought very highly of himself. Joe Biden, he was good at pretending he didn't think very highly of himself. But if you read kind of how he interacted with people, he thought very highly of himself. George W. Bush was actually somewhat humble-ish in his own way. Probably the last one I would cite. All right, let's see. Jack Redview, LOL, I'm enjoying watching Robert have this mental breakdown. Thanks for the laughs, Robert. Robert New York loves to get in there and mix it up in the chat. Whatever, man. I celebrate all views. Like, if you want to do your thing, but don't. Do me a favor. Don't just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and call each other names. That doesn't do us any good. And I don't really want to be a format for that. You're going to disagree. Fine. I still think the phrase reasonable people can disagree should exist. And let's try to uphold that. Jeremy Hurley, do you think the cult of personality around Trump ends when he leaves office, or do you see his influence still being a big factor in American politics after 2028? I've said this before. I will say it again. Donald Trump will be a big factor in American politics, and especially Republican politics, until he dies, and maybe after he dies. The two people, if you said to me, Chris, name the two people most likely to be the Republican nominee in 2028, I would say Donald Trump's actual son, Donald Trump Jr., and his political son, J.D. Vance. That tells you everything you need to know about sort of his influence. Brett Green, Chris, let's be honest. Is what David Hogg doing going to help Dems or hurt them? Hurt them. David Hogg, if you haven't followed this, he's a DNC vice chair. He is also the leader of a group that is spending $20 million on trying to beat Democrats, older Democrats in primaries. Dumb. Take that $20 million and spend it on something else. Dana Cruz, do you think the average voter cares much about the Harvard versus Trump administration developments? Absolutely not. And again, this is another issue where I think Donald Trump, in the broadest strokes, is picking the right fights. I think most people did not know that Harvard gets billions of dollars from the federal government, especially because they have a $53 billion endowment. I think saying we're not going to keep giving them that money if they don't do some of the things we want them to do is going to be a winning issue for lots and lots and lots of voters. Yes. Let's see. John Suda. John, thank you for your donation. John says, I very much appreciate your aim to be a neutral journalist. Is it the same as being in the middle, though? What if one side or both move way left or right? What will the middle be? So John, I don't think of it on that ideological spectrum because I think that's a really good question. That's why I always say, I take it out of the political context and say calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. Because I'm not left, I'm not right. And if one party moves way left, one party moves way right, I don't want to find myself out of sorts there. My view is each party is throwing a bunch of pitches every single day. I am trying, and every week and every month, I am trying to say that one is a strike, that one is a ball. You should pay attention to that. You should not pay attention to this. I'm not looking at it through that left-right prism. Let's see. Mike McClary, thanks for doing this, Chris. The right took every opportunity to point out Biden's aging. How do you see them handling when Donald John Trump inevitably shows signs of decline? I'm interested to see that. My guess is they will do what the Biden people did, which is try to cover it up and insist everything is fine and he's great. But he'll be 82 years old when he leaves office. I mean, it's possible he'll be totally with it and fine and have no problems when he's 82. But, actuarial tables being what they are, you start losing it a little bit when you get into your 80s. So we'll see. AB, what bothers me the most is that the media just wants to talk about that one guy who was correctly or incorrectly sent to El Salvador. How about we also talk about the hundreds who were sent correctly? Yeah, fair point. Jerry Calderon, since the IRS is eliminating thousands of agents, the threat of an audit drops to zero. Hence, no need to even file. Result, approximately $500 billion in lost revenue. Fair point. Rich G, what do you think Chuck Schumer's long-term outlook is in New York and as the leader of the Senate? Also, I really enjoy your content. Thanks, Rich. And I don't know, I have no inside information on this. My guess is that Schumer in 2028 calls it a career. Whether or not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is lurking as a potential primary challenger or if she's more focused on the presidential race, I don't know that he wants to stick around any longer because I do think he is on the older end. He's in his 70s. He'll be in his mid 70s by 2028. Again, that's not that old in the Senate, but I don't know. I have a sense that maybe he'll kind of walk away. I'm not sure. Adrian Weber. Adrian, thank you for your donation. Again, Adrian says, number one, respect to you for being true to yourself and your unique perspective, even if it frustrates some. Thank you. Number two, hot take, Celtics repeat. I like the Celtics. I like the Celtics, the Lakers, and the Thunder. And maybe I'm underestimating the Cavaliers, but I like those three. Let's see. Jack Moon, who was the best orator that was president or a presidential candidate? Obama, really, really, really gifted orator. Who else? FDR, Lincoln. The people you know. And I'm not saying that Obama is Lincoln or FDR. I'm just saying as a good speaker. Tom Birmingham, need thank you thumb merch. Thank you thumb. That's a great idea. Let's see. John Suda says, you said something to the effect of, I try to be in the middle though. Yes, John, you're right. I'm just saying overall, when I think of what I'm doing, I'm trying to think of it not in those terms, not like, oh, the right's over here and the left's over here and I need to be here. And if the right moves way over here and the left moves way over here, I need to be here. More like a pitch is thrown. Doesn't matter what the batter at the plate, who the batter at the plate is, who the pitcher is that pitch smart, dumb, a strike, a ball, etc. Leo Salazar, why is Abrego Garcia locked up in El Salvador? Are there any criminal charges against him? Most deported people don't get locked up when they're deported. Again, fair point. I don't know the answer to that. Let's see. J. Jordan 00. How can you correctly send someone to a foreign prison without due process in the courts? So I have seen Republicans say he did get due process. I don't know what that would exactly mean because I think these people were just rounded up and sent out of the country. I think the answer people would say is, well, he's illegally in this country anyway, and he's a gang member. Now, I think the gang member thing is up in the air. I don't know. Robert, I see you in here saying he's an MS-13 member. That is not proven. I'm not saying he's not. It might come out that he is, but I don't see evidence that that's the case. So yeah. Raman says, please stop bringing up the Nobel Peace Prize. They will never give Trump one. Don't be so sure. Patrick Murray, congrats on 66,600 subscribers. Spooky. Yes, very true. Very spooky. Let me go through and make sure I didn't miss anyone. who hasn't asked a question, who's not just using the chat to fight with other people. Let's see. If I missed you, flag me. But I don't think I did. I usually am pretty good about this. Let me just make sure. Let's see. I'm not answering questions about if I was single, because I'm not single and I'm not going to be single. Let's see. Sly Fox says, on the Ukraine question, the funding and intelligence stuff was paused shortly and then unpaused not too long after that. So we still are giving money to Ukraine. Thank you for that, Sly Fox. C. Jack Redview, I did that one. AB, I did that one. I'm just making sure. H. Are people stupid? In this country, it is hard to say they are not. Well, look, what I would say is I don't know the context of your question, H, but just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean they're stupid. Somebody asked me in my mailbag over at my Substack, Donald Trump is stupid, so who's really running things? Elon Musk, Stephen Miller? Don't go down that road that Donald Trump is stupid. He's not. Is he intellectually curious? No. Is he book smart? I don't really think so. But is he savvy? Yes, very savvy about how all this stuff works, how to persuade people, how to motivate people, how to make them angry, how to make them fearful, how to make them hopeful. So I would not, just don't get into the people who disagree with me are stupid thing, because that to me is a big mistake. Oh man, my mouse just died. I'm going to have to scroll some other way. Hold on. I got to plug my mouse in. Let me go over here. All right, I'm scrolling. I see this. Nathan Singbeal. How will the winner of the Canadian election impact U.S.-Canada relations? Well, I would say I think that Mark Carney, the Liberal candidate, is probably going to win. The election's on April 28th, so in a week's time, 10 days' time, which is remarkable because Pierre Poilievre, the conservative nominee, everyone assumed was going to win. And then Trump started talking about tariffs and making Canada the 51st state, and the lines totally crossed. I think it'll be more adversarial if it's Mark Carney than if it's Pierre Poilievre, but, who knows? Let's see. Tom Birmingham, thoughts on Governor Hochul of New York being challenged? So Democratic primary, you've got Antonio Delgado, her lieutenant governor, potentially running, as well as Richie Torres, member of Congress. On the other side, you've got Elise Stefanik, the member of Congress, potentially running, and Mike Lawler, who is also a member of Congress. I still think Hochul is likely the Democratic nominee, and if she's the Democratic nominee, she's probably going to be elected governor again. She's not super popular. A poll that came out last week had her at 40% approval overall, but it's New York, and the power of incumbency is strong. So I still think she probably winds up winning. Let's see. Hold on. I'm scrolling here. Stephen Doherty, healthcare in America is broken. Why are we so distracted with all these other issues? Interesting, Stephen. So, Obama did overhaul healthcare. It's going to be hard to re-overhaul it. I think Trump, whoever's elected after him, they're not going to do it because Obamacare is pretty popular. 60+% of people say they like it, and politicians don't overhaul things that 60% of people say they like. I agree. I don't think our healthcare system is amazing, but that's the reality. David Johnson, Chris, happy weekend and happy Easter to you and your family. Thank you, my friend. Happy Good Friday to all those who celebrate, and happy Easter in a couple days for people who celebrate. Rich G. Rich, thank you for your donation. Rich says, have a great weekend and thank you. I will do my best. I've got a couple questions on the New York City mayor's race. I think that Andrew Cuomo is going to win. If he doesn't, I wouldn't fall over, but I think he's going to win. And I think Eric Adams running as an independent is probably less important than you might think. Joel Soper, thoughts on Janet Mills running for the Senate in Maine? They are really recruiting her. She would be the strongest candidate against Susan Collins. I think it would be basically a toss-up race, maybe a slight lean to Janet Mills, two-term governor. If they get her, it'd be a big recruiting success for Democrats, no question. And that would probably become the most important Democratic takeover opportunity in the country, maybe even past Ossoff. Jack Redview. Jack, thank you so much for your donation. Jack says, please, you need a moderator in your chat. Open dialogue is nice, but this can be a place where people are just waiting to pounce on your opinion, such as Robert. That will prevent people from commenting. I agree, but how do I get a moderator in? I don't know how to do it. Two things. One, I don't know how to get a moderator. If you know, Cillizza@gmail.com, send me a note. Number two, I don't want to silence speech. I also don't want to reward trolls. So it's a hard balance. Tom K, I've noticed that independent media seems to really only draw conservative viewers if they explicitly market to them. How do you go about drawing roughly equal viewers and avoid an echo chamber? Man, I try to, again, I don't look at it through a partisan lens. I look at it through, is this smart or is this dumb? Is this going to work or is it not going to work? I still want more conservative people in these chats, in my Substack, on YouTube. You know, I always say it's kind of depressing when I write something that I think is very fair but critical of Democrats, and I lose subscribers here and on Substack because I've never said I'm going to be pro-Democrats. That's not who I am. And it's kind of like, you know, if that's what you want, there's plenty of other places to fish on the internet. So anyway, the dude, do you have any personal safety journalism concerns? Not really. A form of life, maybe make an AMA for conservative questions. So like do a thing on here or on Reddit. I don't know the answer to that. Email me, cillizzac@gmail.com. Justina White, yes, please get a moderator. You'll have to go out and hire someone. Could be a good investment for your platform. Fair. Paul Olson, with personnel being cut at so many agencies, IRS, etc., could it be that the plan is to have artificial intelligence do much of that work? Yes, I do. A form of life says do an AMA for conservatives on here. Happy to do that. Let's see. Noel Fredrickson, have a happy Easter. I see what you did there. All right. Let me just see. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody big or asking something that I haven't kind of addressed. Okay. I think, oh gosh, easy name 123. Sorry, getting here. Thank you for a donation. And again, for people who want to donate to me, please, it means a ton. It really does help. I know it's every little bit helps. I know it's cliche, but it's true. I am trying to make this life work. The things you can do is be a subscriber, donate to the super chat, be a paid subscriber over at my Substack, or just go to the Buy Me Coffee link and buy me a coffee, which doesn't mean buy me a coffee. It means donate to me. So if you can, that'd be great. Easy name 123. The Rogan Leck style of interviewing without real experts or accountability fuels mass information and character laundering. How do we fix it? Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. It's like when we do these interviews with some of these people and they're like, that's interesting, I never heard of it. And it's like facts are like, there's facts where you could be like, okay, it might be interesting, but it's like proven to be not true. I worry about that, right? If everybody can be a journalist, but not everybody is operating under the same kind of journalistic standards, I think that's dangerous because that means I'm trying to operate under the standards I learned as a journalist over the last 25 years, right? But people who aren't a journalist they could call themselves a journalist or a content creator or whatever, and they don't operate on those things. They might not even know those things. That worries me. Albie PDX. Albie, thank you so much for your donation. It really means a lot. Albie says, keep up the awesome work, Chris. I will. Zamar Anternigian. I love it when you're on the Tony Kornheiser podcast. Good. I love being on the Tony Kornheiser podcast. Thank you so much. Jack Moon says maybe priority for fans to be moderator. So I am thinking I'm adding a priority or a YouTube premium section. Stay tuned for that. We're going to have some really good things on there. So stay tuned, Jack. All right. I'm going to end it there. Happy Good Friday. Do you say Happy Good Friday? I mean, it was kind of anyway. Enjoy your Good Friday. It is a wonderful day here in Washington. It's 75 degrees and sunny. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Be kind. And if you can, like this video, do it for the thumb. Tell people about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. A form of life. That is an incredibly generous donation. What you're doing is extremely noble. Keep going. I will. And your donation and donations of others like you make it easier for me to do that. So be kind to one another. Give each other the benefit of the doubt. Don't assume people who you disagree with are evil or stupid. Anyway, take good care. Again, you can donate to me here on Super Chat. You can donate on Buy Me a Coffee, where there's a link on my page on YouTube. You can donate at my Substack, chriscillizza.substack.com, or you can just subscribe for free to this YouTube channel or to my Substack. Anything that you can do is very much appreciated. Again, independent news creator, balls and strikes, no matter what uniform the batter or the pitcher is wearing. If you want to support that and me, please do and take great care. Have a good weekend. Bye, everybody.